We continue our story at the Autobot base, where everything is actually going smoothly so far after the defeat of Geismagorm and the imprisonment of Starscream, who's actually being interrogated by Arachnid, RC, and Antelka. Poor Starscream. But that's not who we're focusing on today. We're focusing on Agent Fowler, stating that his blood pressure is extremely high because of these darn wyverns and the fact that they keep leaving the trench that they were supposed to stay at in order to go hunting. And he directs this towards Balerion, who's like, yeah, I mean, they have to eat. They're somewhat still organic and magical in nature. At least they're eating whales, dolphins, and whatever they can find in the open sea. To which Agent Fowler simply states, that is not the point I am making right now. And then Balerion's like, okay, what point are you trying to make? You're telling me that they're hunting, that they're living their lives, but yet they're not attacking people. Wait, they're not attacking people, right? To which Agent Fowler simply states, we've lost 3 fishing boats. 3! Do you know how much those cost on the government salary? To which Balerion's like, no, obviously not. And Ratchet's like, okay, well, before you guys state that, there is a little situation we have to deal with here. And this is where Astralis simply states, now, wait a minute, hold on now, Docbot. Yeah, we do have to kind of address this situation. I mean, if they are attacking boats, then that is a big issue. To which Agent Fowler was like, exactly. The place you built them doesn't have enough food. They're all around small creatures and stuff like that. It's not like they're in the African savannah. To which Blair was like, you know what? That actually might be a better place. Maybe we'll go to Egypt and I'll create the world scar and put it there and stuff like that. To which Eruzerian is like, you know what? That actually might be a better idea. That way they can just live here on Earth again and not really have to bother with people and stuff like that, because they can just leave for the coast and get food. To which this is where Arachnid returns with, obviously, Energon fingers and stuff like that. And she's like, ugh, he didn't tell me anything, or at least nothing useful about the Decepticons. So I guess Starscream really did desert them after all. How trivial. To which Balerion simply turns to her and simply smiles, stating, you still would have done it anyway, wouldn't you? To which Arachnid is like, well, to be fair, my dear, I definitely would have. It's Starscream after all. You can't help but want to hear him squeal sometimes. It's a wonder how Megatron even made him second in command in the first place, but I suppose that not everyone is fit for the clown role, if you will. To which Ratchet says, okay, good. Now can y'all turn y'all attention to what's really important? To which everyone's like, okay, fine, what is it? And to which Ratchet simply states he's actually discovered the next relic and shows that it's the Star Saber. To which Optimus actually himself is a bit more excited about this in this timeline. Because again, he simply wants an edge over Megatron. He wants something to counter the Terratech's Warp Sword. And so he decides to take Balerion and Eruzin with him here. Because again, as of right now, the Autobots are kind of just chilling out. He doesn't want to risk them entirely. So having both dragons, or at least 2 dragons, the most destructive member and the alpha on his side, Optimus thinks that, yeah, this should be a cakewalk at this point. And if it isn't, well, they'll definitely pull through. And keep in mind, we're going to go to the Decepticon warship. And this is where everything does change significantly. Megatron is looking at the Equal Dragon weapon along with Knockout. And well, they're simply discussing how, honestly, this weapon could actually be useful and could be used in the right hands. A weapon to counter anything a dragon can do. Forged from the ancients during the time of, what's the human name? King Magor? To which Knockout's like, precisely, this weapon was able to counter all of the dragons back then. A weapon made to put humanity back on top. And now, here it is. Something that the cannibal could never even dream of countering. Something that no one, not even Naga himself, would be able to counter. And this is where Megatron simply states, good. However, unfortunately, we do not have the same materials as Shockwave. However, Knockout does simply state, yes, we do not have the same materials as Shockwave, but his laboratories may actually present the same option, or a different option, if you will, Lord Megatron. To which Megatron simply states, this is perfect. Good job, Knockout. And so, this is where he has Soundwave send out Rampage and Skybite to actually go ahead and to, well, pretty much sends them to Cybertron. And let's just say it doesn't really take them long to discover one of Shockwave's labs. However, they find it active and... dragons? No, not dragons, but Predacons? They thought they were wiped out a long time ago. And this is where Skybite simply looks around and is like, fascinating. A new way to create life. And here we thought the Staff of Merlin was the only way. But through scientific means, we can achieve, yes, indeed. To which they both turn around and all startled and stuff. Startled and stuff. And this is where they actually see Shockwave to say, welcome, my fellow Decepticons. What brings you here? To which Rampage is like, oh, Shockwave. Well, it's actually nice to know you're alive. However, we could require your services and this army towards Lord Megatron. To which Shockwave simply states, that is not an option, unfortunately. I will be leading this army and using it to conquer that planet known as Earth. To which this is where Rampage simply states, wait, you're not serving Megatron? I wonder why. To which Shockwave simply states, never reached out, and I was abandoned here by Starscream. And who knows, maybe he's alive on Earth, maybe Megatron killed him, but nevertheless, I will not be his pawn any longer. To which Skybite says, wait, but you're supposed to serve him in all of his glory. You took an oath, you swore your allegiance, and now you betray him? To which Shockwave simply states, he betrayed me. And I will have my vengeance and take my rightful place as true leader of the Decepticons. To which Skybite simply states, not if I have something to do about it. And this is where he simply states, as he takes out his fin blade, you are nothing but a traitor, Shockwave, and you will be Q. And this is where he turns around and sees Rampage with his claw inside him. And he says, sorry, buddy. I like to live. And I like where this chaos is going. And he simply rips him clean in half, killing Skybite. Unfortunate, but again, it's Rampage. Unpredictable and not very trusting. And so this is where he looks at Shockwave and asks, so, what's the plan? Shockwave simply states, well, at the moment, I have to just simply raise the army. I will grow to Earth, and I will destroy both Autobots and Decepticons once and for all, ushering a new age, the age of Shockwave. And this is where he presses a device, and Rampage laughs as all the Predacons, Predaking, Skylings, Darksteel, and many more simply come out and join him. And this is where Shockwave simply states, now for the real fun. I will have my own experiment, or at least finishing up an old project I definitely should have done years ago. And this is where we head back to Earth, and we have the battle for the Star Saber. Team Prime versus the Decepticons. And well, we actually see that Aruzin, Prime, and Balerion are all just simply laying waste to Decepticon drones. No matter how many of them come out, no matter how many of them could blast, they simply just douse them. Flames, blast, and ice. All of it. And then Megatron decides that it's time for his team to interfere, with himself, the Cannibal, and Dreadwing. Dreadwing charges at Aruzin and actually tries to engage him in a fist fight, but again it has to deal with the fire and ice blight. And then Balerion and the Cannibal both look at each other and simply fly into the air, clashing fire breath for fire breath. And this actually is going to be the end of their duel, the end of their scuffle. the end of everything that they've caused each other. The pain, the suffering, the many dragons that the cannibal has killed. And Balerion lets him know this. He simply grabs the cannibal by its wings and slamming him into the nearby mountain, and simply tells him, everything you've done, all the dragons you've killed, the millions of people you slaughtered, it's never been enough for you, is it? It's never been something you could satisfy yourself. You did it because you wanted power, because you wanted everything for yourself. And it's now the time to end it. It's now the time for you to face true, divine, draconic justice. And this is where the cannibal states, you sound preachy as always, and snaps his jaws at him. But Balerion actually uses his opportunity to not only duck back, but actually use it to grind the cannibal's wings against the surface of the mountain, causing some wear and tear damage before he throws him right back into the ground and actually causes him to crush a large majority of the Viacons. I mean, hey, it is what it is, but still. And this is where we actually see the cannibal roar, lunge forward, and then bite at Balerion's throat, his signature move. However, Balerion hits him with that weave and then bites down on his neck and begins to crush it as the cannibal tries to flash or even breathe fire, but Balerion has his grip on him tight. Both his wings, his tail, and his neck, in his jaws and talons, and even his own tail respectively, to which the cannibal, for the first time in forever, actually feels fear. And Megatron looks on in horror, saying, no, no, as Balerion simply Mortal Kombats this man and rips off all 4 parts he's holding in such a fashion that even 2007 Megatron would ask how he did it. And Megatron feels that old fear as he looks at Balerion's eyes. He drops all pieces and lands, showing his might, his dominance, his aura. He's feeling that fear that he had back in the very first part, and realizes that this dragon is still unlike anything he's faced, and calls for the Decepticon hive to basically attack him, overwhelm him, do something that'll, you know, harm this dragon. Do something, ref, do something. But this is where Eruzarian, who's actually just froze and even looks at the Decepticon second in command in disgust, as if he dared to challenge him without any way of countering him. Like there was no challenge in it. And this is where Eruzin actually just sees Balerion fighting off the Insecticon horde. While he's doing it easily, he thinks it's a little unfair, so he simply lets out his own commanding roar. And this is where wyverns begin to descend. Oh, they had him around. They can cross distances pretty fast anyway, so I don't really see a problem with it. And all 4 of them, all 4, lightning, poison, fire, and ice, all descend onto the scene, tearing into the Insecticon hive, even being able to eat some of them. I mean, hey, it's metal, and considering the fact that Cybertrons do have some organic materials in them, they could probably feed on that. And well, this is where Megatron is absolutely angry. He's livid. He's like, no, how could this be? And keep in mind, he does have to take out some of the wyverns with his energon-seeking fusion cannon and missile, or, you know, energon-seeking fusion cannon and stuff like that. And this is where he tries to take out the Terratech's warp sword, but Optimus is having none of it. He's managed to finally get in close, and he begins beating the brakes off of Megatron for a good minute. But when he sends him flying, that's when Optimus decides to go ahead and go for the Star Saber. I almost said Terratech's warp sword, excuse me. He goes for the Star Saber, and this is where everything changes. Optimus then runs at Megatron and does his signature move, the Energy Slash. And this is where Megatron counters with a blast of antimatter, both of them canceling each other out. But this is something y'all have to remember. Optimus is upgraded here. thanks to the magics of Merlin's staff, you know, looking like his Transformers universe counterpart, or self, if you will. And this is where, as they clash, Optimus takes full advantage of this. Megatron's unpreparedness. Megatron always relying so hefty on the sword that he kind of forgot how he should be fighting. And Optimus doesn't hold back one little bit. He disarms Megatron, throwing both swords to the side as if they were nothing. And Megatron tries to go for his blade, but Optimus catches him and tells him, "You're gonna fight me like you should." And this is where, yeah, Megatron does fight him. He does fight him with the like he should. He does fight him like a gladiator. However, Optimus sees it, the desperation, and he takes full advantage of this and starts cooking Megatron in a hand-to-hand fight, beating him down like he should. And this is where he is about to finish him, taking out his newly, well, I guess you could say newly branded rifle, if you will, kind of like his G1 blaster, or, you know, his ion blaster, if you will, similar from G1, considering, you know, Transformers universe isn't too different from the G1 design, but you guys get what I mean. And this is where Balerion's like, finish him, do it, Prime, finish him, end it once and for all. And this is where something happens. Obviously, it's not going to go the way he wants. And this is where Eruzarian decides that maybe he should finish him off instead, and charges a fire and ice blast. However, the Clutch Master himself, Soundwave, always coming in to save Master Megatron. And he opens a space bridge a space bridge underneath Dreadwing and him, and well, they both fall into the base. However, Megatron doesn't have the Terratex Warp Sword, and this causes him to convulse. And Knockout simply states, "As I expected, you become too reliant on it, Megatron. Its power, so tempting yet so little." And this is where Megatron does sport his new body after being, well, kind of warped, if you will. But again, he doesn't have the sword. He doesn't have his blade, and now he feels hollow, less powerful than he should be. However, this isn't where we end off here. Balerion looks at the Terratex Warp Sword, all of its power, all of its tempting antimatter abilities. However, when he grabs it, he doesn't feel the surge. But this is where another portal opens in front of him, and this is where Tiamat exits, and she simply states, "Dear Balerion, I've come to warn you of an upcoming crisis I foresaw." And this is where Balerion's like, "Oh great, now we're gonna have more issues to deal with. Tell me, Your Highness, what could the issue actually be?" And that's where we're gonna leave it off here, you guys. How do you guys feel about this chapter? What is Shockwave planning to do? How will the Decepticons use the Equal Dragon weapon? And who's going to be the next one to die? But that's me all today, you guys, and y'all have a blessed day.